Hello and welcome back to the gardens. Today we're going to be talking about thinning our garden, replanting our garden, and also pulling some weeds.
Thinning is done to allow plants plenty of growing room so that they can receive all the proper growth requirements such as moisture, nutrients, light, without having to compete.
As we take a look at this garden here, this is a very typical garden for what you should see when you come out to your raised garden bed over the next day or two. Some of the plants have come in. Some of the seeds that we have planted, where we have planted 2 or 3 seeds at the same time, only one of them have grown. Some of them haven't grown at all, and some all 2 or 3 seeds grew. So, as you can see in this garden here, we have some squash that's growing, some corn that's growing, but if you look farther over to your left, the broccoli, the spinach, the carrots, and the onions aren't growing. We'll need to replant the broccoli, the spinach, the carrots, and the onions for this garden. We'll also need to do some thinning in the corn and squash, and then we'll also need to do some weeding. As we take a look at this squash growing here, the group clearly put in 2 seeds, and you can see here that you have 2 squash plants that are growing. The problem that is going to develop with these plants is these 2 plants are close enough that they're going to start fighting over the same nutrition or the same food in the garden area. So the way in which we thin our plants is we need a pair of scissors, and we are going to simply just take a look at these 2 squash plants and decide which one we want to keep and which one we want to remove. Once we've decided on which one looks healthier or which one we like more, we then are simply going to take our scissors. We're going to get down here at the root or base of the plant, right along the stem and the soil, and we are going to just simply snip it off. Now, these roots will eventually die off, and what will continue to grow here is a very successful, very healthy squash plant. We're going to do this same exact technique all the way through our squash. As we look at this corn here, our corn was growing 4 per square foot, but there's clearly more than 4 here in this square foot. The first thing you'll recognize is the fact that there's a weed growing in with these plants. If you're unsure of what is a weed and what is not a weed, please see me or someone who knows in your garden what is the weed and what is not before making a decision. Remember, pulling something that's not a weed is not a good option, seeing how it will take very long for that plant to grow back. So this is clearly a weed here. You can identify it by its leaves as opposed to the other 4 plants that are growing here. This leaves of this plant are not the same as the leaves of the corn plant. So we're going to go ahead and remove this. This is not in our garden something that we want to keep. You also want to make sure that you get the roots. If you don't get the roots on a weed, they will grow back. As we look at this garden here, I'm just going to simply go along and remove the plants that I don't want to keep. And I remove them by simply taking my scissors and cutting at the bottom. And I'm going to do this to all 4 plants that I'm no longer interested in having in my garden. Now this square foot of my garden is ready to continue growing. I now only have 4 seed plants, 4 corn plants that I planted that are going to be growing in this square foot.
If you need to replant your gardens, there are several supplies that you're going to need. You'll need your garden map, your seed packets, toothpicks, plant depth pencils, and wooden square foot templates. When you look at your map, You need to be able to identify where the plants are going and what plants are going in those square feet. You're also going to want to make sure that your map in your group is being shaded in as you thin plants that are already currently growing. So, for this map, if the watermelon is currently growing and it has already been thinned down to one plant, that area should be shaded in. Here on the corn, if the corn has already been thinned, the corn should be shaded in. The areas that shouldn't be shaded in are areas that haven't been planted or replanted yet, and areas that currently need to be planted. Remember, we're going to use this map to identify the plants that need replanted, how many plants go in that square foot, when using the wooden templates, it's important to match up the correct wooden template which each plant needs. Peppers can only have one plant grown per square foot, so I would get the 1-to-1 template. That's the wooden square with only one hole in the middle. You'll need to use your garden map in order to identify which wooden templates you'll need. Once you've selected the correct wooden template for that location on your map, go ahead and place that wooden template on the soil. Then place the toothpicks in each of the holes, and then remove the template so that way the toothpicks are the only thing showing. For the next part, you'll need to look at the back of your seed packet. At the back of your seed packet, you will see a depth in inches. You'll then need to get the right pencil for that depth. Each pencil has a blue marker on it, and that blue marker will have a number written on it. That number is in inches and will allow you to plant your seeds at the correct depth. Once you have the correct pencil for the seeds that you are planting, go ahead and remove the toothpick, stick the pencil into the soil as deep as the marker goes. When you remove the pencil, you can go ahead and add 2 to 3 seeds. Remember, 2 if it's a large seed, and 3 if it is a smaller seed. Then you're going to want to fill in each hole and brush the dirt back over. It's also important to shade in the parts of the map that you've already replanted. There is no need in wasting seeds and having another group plant in the same area you've already planted. When your garden is completely thinned, weeded, and replanted, everything will be shaded in on your garden map.